My name is Rebecca Walsh, and for 15 years, I've perfected the art of being invisible at Harmony Hill's HOA meetings, the kind where everyone smiles like we're one big happy family, while secretly praying the president doesn't notice their grass is half an inch too tall. At 35, I'm a senior compliance officer at MedTech Solutions in Columbus, the woman in the glass tower who makes sure every regulation is followed so the company doesn't end up on the news. My downtown condo has a river view. My retirement account is healthy. And my lawn, well, my lawn is exactly 4 inches because Karen Morrison, our beloved HOA president, sends a certified letter if it dares to breathe wrong. To the outside world, I look successful. To the Harmony Hills family, I'm still the awkward single woman who shows up to potlucks with store-bought salad and never complains when they find me for excessive holiday lighting that was literally 3 strings of white LEDs. The disconnect started the day Karen swept in as president 8 years ago, right after I bought my house with the inheritance my late mother left me. She arrived with her perfectly highlighted hair, her color-coded rule book, and her 20-something son Jason in tow, the golden boy who could sell ice to Eskimos but somehow never kept a job longer than 6 months. Karen had this magical way of making every HOA violation about community values, while her own son's beat-up truck sat parked on the street for weeks, violating the no eyesores clause that somehow never applied to her. Dad, my actual father who still lived 2 streets over, had remarried into her orbit years earlier. But in Harmony Hills, everyone pretended we were all blood. Blood meant nothing next to Karen's favor. I learned early that in this neighborhood, silence kept the peace. I paid the ridiculous fines for my non-approved mailbox color. I trimmed my hedges to the exact millimeter. And I smiled when Karen gushed at meetings about her latest book club pick while her son Jason pitched yet another revolutionary idea that always needed other people's money. My colleagues at work respected my precision. My neighbors saw me as cold, calculating, disconnected. So I kept my strategic distance. I attended the mandatory potlucks, sent polite emails about rule changes, and never, ever volunteered for committees. Every few months, like clockwork, they reeled me back in with another important community update. This time the text came from Jason himself. Big news. HOA Spring Potluck, Sunday, 7 p.m. Don't miss it. Sis, I should have known. Big news from Jason only ever meant one thing. He needed something. And this time I had this sinking feeling that something was me. The potluck smelled like Karen's signature overcooked pot roast when I arrived, deliberately 15 minutes late, salad in hand, hoping to minimize small talk. Through the community center window, I could see them all already gathered under the fairy lights Karen had approved after 3 committee votes. She fluttered around with plastic wine glasses. Jason held court like a TED Talk speaker. And the rest of the neighbors nodded along, because arguing with Karen meant your next fine would triple. Rebecca. Finally, Karen's voice hit that syrupy note she'd perfected over the years. We were starting to worry. Traffic. I lied smoothly, hanging my coat on the rack where the old community bulletin board used to be before she replaced it with her photo. Jason stood, all smiles and open arms like we were best friends instead of reluctant neighbors who shared a last name through my father's terrible choices. There's my favorite compliance expert, he beamed, putting on weight since Christmas and wearing a designer shirt that screamed new credit card. You're the only sister that counts. Emma's all the way in California anyway. Dinner dragged through the usual Harmony Hill theater. Karen bragged about her book club's latest self-help pick. My father mumbled between bites, and Jason dominated with stories of his networking ventures. I pushed food around my plate and counted the minutes until I could escape. Then, over Karen's famous apple pie that somehow always tasted like regret, Jason cleared his throat dramatically. So, I wanted to share some incredible news with the Harmony Hills family. He began, eyes sparkling with that manic energy I'd learned to distrust. You're looking at the future founder of Harmony Sync, a revolutionary app that's going to change how neighbors collaborate, HOA approvals, maintenance requests, everything streamlined. I've been in talks with David Kim from Apex Ventures. He's really interested. We're talking mid-six-figure seed funding. Karen clasped her hands. Oh, Jason, that's wonderful for the community. He leaned forward. Here's the thing. David wants a solid founding team. He loves my vision, but he needs someone with corporate credibility, someone who understands compliance, regulations, the boring stuff that makes investors sleep at night. His eyes locked on mine across the folding tables. I set down my fork. No. The word dropped like a lawnmower blade on a Sunday morning. Jason laughed, but the edge was sharp. You haven't even heard the offer yet. Co-founder equity. Your name on the paperwork. All you do is lend your expertise, maybe attend a couple meetings. I am listening, I said calmly, and my answer is still no. I won't attach my name or reputation to another one of your ventures. The room went silent. Karen's mouth formed a thin line. Jason's friendly mask slipped. What's that supposed to mean? It means I remember Total Fit, Streamline, and that crypto disaster. I won't be your credibility prop. Jason leaned back, voice low and dangerous. You know what your problem is, Rebecca? You think you're better than this community. Just because you have your corporate job and your perfect credit. Here I am offering to cut you in on something huge for Harmony Hills. And you can't even pretend to support your own neighborhood. You're not my neighborhood when you're committing fraud, I said quietly. His face flushed. You'll regret this. Rebecca, when Harmony Sync takes off and you're still pushing papers in your glass tower, remember this moment. You had a chance to be part of something real. He stood abruptly, chair scraping. You'll regret this. I met his eyes. I'll take my chances. As I drove home that night past the identical beige houses and the no parking on grass signs, I couldn't shake the feeling that Jason's threat wasn't just sour grapes. There was something darker in his tone. I should have trusted that instinct. Exactly 1 week later, I was deep in quarterly compliance reports when my phone buzzed with a fraud alert from American Express. Someone had tried to open a business credit card in my name at 2:47 a.m. My blood ran cold. In my line of work, identity protection wasn't a hobby. It was survival. I called the card company, pulled my credit report, and felt my stomach drop. 3 credit inquiries in 5 days. 2 attempted business loans, all listing me as co-founder and chief compliance officer of Harmony Sync LLC. I logged in my email. Nothing in my main account, but the spam folder told the story. Forwarded messages from addresses I didn't recognize, all discussing Harmony Sync's founding team. My professional bio, lifted straight from the MedTech website, appeared next to Jason's. The most damning email was dated 3 days after the potluck. Jason to David Kim, attaching founding team profiles and a letter of intent with my digital signature forged at the bottom. It was good enough that I had to look twice to spot the tiny irregularities in the font. This wasn't borrowing my reputation. This was federal fraud. My phone rang. Karen. Rebecca. Honey, she cooed, voice dripping fake concern. How are you? I've been thinking about you since the potluck. Jason feels terrible about how things ended. He mentioned you might be helping with some paperwork, compliance guidelines, that sort of thing. So they were testing the waters. I'm not helping Jason with anything. Karen. A calculated pause. Well, he seemed to think there was maybe a misunderstanding. You know how these technical things can be. Perhaps you signed something without realizing. There's no misunderstanding. Have a good day. I hung up and immediately called my bank. While on hold, I opened a new spreadsheet. Old habit. Document everything. Build the case. The fraud department confirmed it. Someone had submitted a $75,000 small business loan application using my social security number and a mix of real and fabricated financials. The application was still pending. complete with documents supposedly bearing my signature. I sat in my home office staring at the spreadsheet. Every cell I filled made the betrayal sharper. This wasn't a desperate mistake. It was planned. They'd waited just long enough after the potluck to make it seem unrelated, but not so long that I'd changed my security settings. My phone buzzed again, an unknown number, but the style screamed Jason. Hey sis. Tried calling, but couldn't get through. David Kim is really excited about having you on board. Quick meeting this week? Promise it won't take long. Jay. He was creating a paper trail to make it look like I was willing. I screenshot it and added it to the growing folder. Then I did what I do best. I got to work. Every evening after my real job, I poured a glass of wine and dove deeper. Jason had been sloppy, classic overconfident criminal mistake. He'd applied for 2 business credit lines, registered the LLC using my home address as a secondary location, and listed me as reference on a commercial lease for office space that was clearly his garage. Metadata showed submissions between 2 and 4 a.m. from his home IP. He'd even opened a business checking account at Midwest Community Credit Union listing me as CFO, with a $5,000 deposit from Morrison Household Management, one of Karen's shell companies. They weren't just complicit, they were funding it. I played dumb when Karen called again. Rebecca, you haven't returned Jason's calls. He's worried you're overwhelmed with the new community responsibilities. What responsibilities? I asked innocently. Well, the Harmony Sync project. He said you'd agreed to help with financial structuring. Karen, I explicitly told him no at the potluck. You were there. A pause. Sometimes we say things in the heat of the moment. I documented the call. Every conversation gave me more ammunition. The evidence folder grew. 50 pages, then 100. Bank docs, forged signatures, recorded calls. Ohio is one-party consent. Thank you. I consulted a lawyer friend under the guise of a hypothetical. I researched identity theft statutes. Which agencies handle what? The folder became my masterpiece. Timelines, metadata analysis, everything cross-referenced like a compliance audit. Jason thought he was building a company on my reputation. He didn't realize he was building his own prosecution file, one forged document at a time. The breaking point came at the next mandatory HOA family meeting 3 weeks later, this time called by my father. Voice strained. Rebecca, we need you here Sunday, 6 p.m. Sharp. It's important. Dad sounded worried. Not like Karen's usual syrup. I arrived to find the community center packed. Jason paced by the projector screen. Karen sat rigid on the folding chair throne she called the president's seat. My father stood by the window, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Sit, Jason commanded, skipping pleasantries. I remained standing. What's this about? You know damn well, he snarled. Face flushed. He shoved his phone at me. An email from David Kim asking about irregularities in the funding application. Banks were demanding extra verification on perfectly legitimate documents. I kept my face neutral. I hadn't contacted anyone yet. This was their own sloppy fraud biting them. I don't know what you're talking about. Jason slammed his hand on the table. You're sabotaging me, just like you always poison people against the community. You're destroying Harmony Sync because you can't stand to see anyone succeed. Karen's voice shook with fake tears. Rebecca, dear, if you just explained to the banks there was a misunderstanding. What misunderstanding? I turned to her. The one where my signature appears on documents I never signed? Where my credit was run for loans I never applied for? My father spoke quietly from the corner. Family, community, helps each other. Community doesn't commit identity theft, I answered. The room exploded. Jason ranted about my selfishness, my jealousy, my holier-than-thou attitude. Karen cried about how I'd never accepted the Harmony Hills way, never given Jason a chance. My father kept repeating we needed to work it out as a family. Through it all, I stood perfectly still, watching Jason unravel. His styled hair was a mess. Designer shirt untucked. This wasn't the smooth operator from the potluck. This was a desperate man watching his house of cards collapse under the weight of his own greed. "You think you're so smart," he snarled, getting in my face, whiskey on his breath, "with your compliance job and your perfect record. But you're nothing. You're a paper pusher who'll die alone in that sterile condo with no one who gives a damn. You've forgotten how to take risks, how to trust your neighborhood." "I trusted this neighborhood once," I said quietly, "when my mother was alive and the rules were fair. That stopped the day you stole from me." The mention of my late mother silenced them cold. Even Karen's fake tears dried. Jason's face went purple. "After everything we've done for you, you've stolen from me. You've lied about me. You've committed fraud using my name." "Prove it," he spat. I almost smiled. "Okay." He leaned in, voice a whisper meant to intimidate. "You can't stop this. Rebecca, I worked too hard. Every document has your name on it. Who do you think they'll believe? The visionary entrepreneur or the bitter neighbor with a grudge? Drop the vendetta. Tell the banks it was a misunderstanding. Sign the real papers. Or I swear you'll regret this for the rest of your miserable life." The room fell silent. Karen clutched her pearls. My father stared at the floor. Jason stood, breathing hard, certain he'd won. I picked up my purse and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Karen called. "Home. I have some emails to send." Jason's voice chased me out. "You'll regret this. Rebecca, you hear me?" As I drove past the identical houses and the no political flag signs, I thought about regret. I didn't feel it. I felt clarity. It was time. That night, I sat at my dining table with 3 cups of coffee and 3 neat evidence packets, each one a carefully constructed bomb. The first email went to Midwest Community Credit Union's fraud department. 47 pages proving the fake account, forged signatures, and the $5,000 transfer from Karen's shell company. The second went to the Ohio Attorney General's office. 112 pages of forged documents, fake emails, metadata, recorded calls, everything in perfect chronological order, linking each piece to specific felonies. The third went to David Kim at Apex Ventures, surgical, focused on the fraudulent founding docs and a notarized statement that I had never agreed to participate. Before sending any, I crafted one more to Jason, CC'd to Karen and my father. "Jason, as you requested at our last meeting, I've taken action regarding Harmony Sync and the fraudulent use of my identity. Attached are copies of the complaints filed with Midwest Community Credit Union Fraud Department, the Ohio Attorney General's Financial Crimes Division, and Apex Ventures Attention David Kim. Since you promised I would regret this, let me be clear about what I regret. I regret not documenting your previous scam sooner. I regret staying silent when you stole from this community. I don't regret protecting myself. Per Ohio Revised Code, identity fraud is a third-degree felony when the value exceeds $7,500. The attempted loan in my name was for $75,000. I've included a special section in each complaint documenting your threats, recorded October 15th at 6:43 p.m. Any further contact will be reported immediately. P.S. You were right. I do collect evidence for a living. I attached all 3 complaint files, stamped with submission times. My finger hovered over send for 1 second. Not doubt, just the weight of finality. Then I clicked. The replies came faster than I expected. Apex Ventures confirmed receipt and promised investigation. The AG's office generated a case number. David Kim wrote personally, MS. Walsh, thank you for your thorough documentation. We've terminated all discussions with Mr. Morrison and will cooperate fully with law enforcement. My phone exploded. Jason. Karen. My father. Unknown numbers. I let them go to voicemail, documenting each. Jason's first message. What did you do? David Kim just called. This is insane. You need to fix this. Karen's were shriller, alternating tears and threats about community loyalty. My father left one. I hope you're happy. I turned off my phone, poured a glass of wine, and sat on my balcony watching the identical streetlights of Harmony Hills twinkle. Somewhere out there, Jason was watching his scam crumble. Karen was calculating damage control. My father was wondering how his neighborhood had come to this. Me? I felt peace for the first time in years. The next morning brought official confirmations. The credit union froze the account. The AG scheduled an interview. Jason's LinkedIn no longer listed him as founder of Harmony Sync. I documented it all because that's what I do. The next 2 weeks were a symphony of consequences. Every morning brought new developments I added to my resolution folder. All accounts connected to Harmony Sync were frozen, including the $5,000 from Karen's shell company. Detective Martinez from the AG's Financial Crimes Unit interviewed me for 3 hours and actually whistled at my binder. In 15 years, I've rarely seen a victim do half her job for us. I smiled. Documentation is what I do. She grinned. Your HOA president and her son are about to learn why identity theft is a federal offense. The calls escalated from desperate to unhinged. Karen left slurred voicemails at 2 a.m. about destroying a good boy's future. Jason's emails cycled through denial, rage, bargaining, and finally a cheap lawyer's threat letter about defamation. Detective Martinez laughed out loud when I forwarded it. Bold strategy, suing the victim of his own crime. The investigation expanded. They uncovered Jason's history of previous fraud complaints from other failed ventures. My evidence connected the dots. Charges were filed. Identity theft, wire fraud, forgery, conspiracy. Jason's name hit the public record. Karen's shell company fell under money laundering scrutiny. The HOA board held an emergency meeting where she was voted out. Neighbors who'd feared her for years finally found their voices. The Harmony Sync website became a 404 error. Jason's influencer accounts vanished. 6 months later, Karen left a voicemail inviting me to the HOA Thanksgiving potluck. Her voice was smaller, hesitant. Rebecca, things have been difficult, but it's Thanksgiving. The community should be together. Your father misses you. 2 days before the holiday, my father called. Please, just one potluck. We need to talk as a family. We're not a family, I said. We're people who share some fences and bad history. Jason had moved to Florida. Karen and my father were trying to move forward. Against every instinct I went, curiosity, maybe closure, or just to see if they'd learned anything. The community center felt smaller. Jason's photos were gone from the walls. Karen answered the door, looking gray at the roots. Simple sweater instead of her usual blazer. Thank you for coming. Dinner was subdued, no grand speeches, just small talk until dessert. Karen's hands trembled around her coffee. What Jason did, what we enabled, it was wrong. He took a plea, probation, restitution, no jail if he complies. I set down my fork. He didn't become anything. He always was this. You just finally got caught in the crossfire. The silence stretched. My father asked quietly, so what now? I protected myself. That's all I ever wanted. Karen's eyes filled. We'd like to try to be better. I looked at them, the people who'd chosen a con artist over fair rules, who'd only apologized after consequences. I'll think about it. It was more than they deserved. As I left, my father walked me to the door. Your mother used to say you were the strong one. Now I see it. You're stronger than any of us. I'm not strong, I said. I just got tired of being a victim. In the garage, I sat for a moment. My phone buzzed, an unknown number. Jason, you won. Hope you're happy. Family is supposed to protect each other, not destroy each other. I pulled into my driveway, composed my reply, and sent him one attachment, a screenshot of his own words from that potluck 6 months ago. You'll regret this. Then I blocked the number and walked inside. My phone buzzed one last time. Emma from California sending a photo of her Friendsgiving. Genuine smile. Thank you again for showing me it's okay to protect yourself, even from family. Especially from family. I poured a glass of wine and stood at my window looking out at the identical houses of Harmony Hills. Somewhere Jason was learning consequences. Karen was researching defense attorneys. My father was grappling with choices. And me? I raised my glass to my reflection. No regrets, I whispered. Because when someone tells you you'll regret standing up for yourself, sometimes the best response really is just 3 simple words. Check your email. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'm curious, where are you listening from? Drop it in the comments. If this HOA Karen drama hit home, smash that subscribe button and share your own neighborhood nightmare below. Have you ever had to stand up to a power-tripping HOA president? I'd love to hear it.